Hey everyone, this is Michael Cole, VP of Marketing at Everflow. Today I'm joined by Pierre-Olivier. Do you mind doing like the just super fast introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Pierre-Olivier. People call me Pod. It's a bit easier. And I'm the founder and CEO at Verbolia.
Great. And sort of how did you, what makes Verbolia win against the competition?
So Verbolia, I'll get to what we do a bit later, I guess. But first, it's all about technology. We have put up together a lot of very funny things that are extremely efficient. Lots of algorithms that are very interesting. That's one. And second thing is an amazing team of customer success. So we have a team of people who really good in SEO, long tail SEO for e-commerce, and they can help customers use the tool at their best. And with that, you really have the winning combination.
What is sort of your elevator pitch for prospects?
Verbolia is the best platform you can use to grow your traffic on your e-commerce platform.
Nice.
Between two floors in the elevator, in a very short one.
And how did you get involved in this industry in the first place?
I'm more of a tech guy initially. So I've been CTO in a few scale-up startups. And just before starting Verbolia, I was working not in e-commerce, but in real estate. I was CTO of the leading real estate portal in Belgium. And there, I mean, I could see that SEO is something that has a huge potential, that is always a bit like a black box. People don't really understand. And that's how I started really being passionate by it. And then I met my co-founder, and then around a few beers and discussions, we came up with this kind of project.
So did they have experience in that side of SEO and ranking and everything?
Yeah, definitely.
And then you brought the technological expertise to actually bring it to a sustainable place.
Yeah, and we make it a product actually, because SEO most of the time is either just tools to get you some analytics, or it's a lot of service and people actually doing things. We really came with a platform that actually activates things. So our tool actually creates pages for you. It's not you who have to, you don't have to do it yourself. You can just use our technology to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to explore a little bit of what that actually looks like as we go along. And then finally, what is one goal that you want to achieve for this year?
We're still a bootstrapped company. We want to grow, to keep on growing, and our goal this year is to double the recurring revenue. So just like we've been doing for the last 3 years. So definitely we want to keep in the same trend.
That's a very healthy goal. Awesome. Yeah. So let's get into some longer form discussion topics. So first off, what just give the quick, what is SEO and why is it especially important for e-commerce?
Yeah, so SEO stands for search engine optimization. One very short way to define it is everything you can do to please Google. Because in the end, everybody here talking about SEO for e-commerce, so everyone who's selling products online would like that if someone types Adidas blue shoes, everyone wants to be the #1 result. And to be the #1 result, you have to be the most relevant for Google, so that Google wants to put you at the first position because people want to find this kind of page. So SEO is all the methodologies, tools, techniques you will use to be seen as the most relevant result. And it's super important because it's, in the end, it's an acquisition channel, just like a lot of others. You want to be seen in SEO, you want to be seen in PPC, in paid search, you want to be seen in your newsletters, you want people to know your brand, so just to get direct traffic, and to have a healthy marketing mix You need traffic coming from a lot of different sources, and SEO is a super important part of it, of course.
And definitely sustainable. So if there was like a shoe company as your customer, like what is the sort of like ideal scenario as that shoe company? Like once they're ranking up, like what kind of like terms should a successful e-commerce SEO campaign be ranking on as like a shoe company?
So there's a few things. There's what is called, I mean, SEO is all about keywords because people are looking for something. People are typing a keyword in Google, like blue shoes. I'm looking for blue shoes. I will type blue shoes. So blue shoes is the keyword in Google. So you can't do SEO without defining on what keyword you would like to have a page that is ranking in the top. So of course, it's all about keywords. So typically you have what are called the top tail keywords, which are very popular keywords. Okay, I'm looking for shoes for men. This is a very popular keyword. So it's popular, so it's good because many people are looking for it. So if you're number one, it's really cool because you get a lot of clicks. However, it's not so nice because everybody wants to be there, and there's not the competition is really, really big. Everybody wants that very first position because it's a super important keyword. So this is more like the top tail keywords. And on the other side, you have more long tail keywords, which are keywords like Adidas blue shoes for women. So someone really wants Adidas blue shoes for women. These more, we call it long tail keywords because there's not many people looking for that, but there's many combinations of that because you have Adidas blue shoes, but you have a Nike blue shoe, you have whatever, all the brands, you have the green shoes, the pink shoes, and all of that. So there's many combinations of that, and each combination has a little bit of popularity. So each of them can bring you a few visits, but of course, a few visits times a lot of combinations can bring a decent amount of traffic. So this is the concept, let's say, of long tail SEO. And the good thing with long tail SEO is that there's less competition because not everybody will think about optimizing pages for Adidas blue shoes for women. So there's less competition. However, since there's many keywords, it takes a bit of work to be present, to be really good on all of these combinations, because you can easily go to tens of thousands of such combinations. So you need to have quality pages, content for all of these combinations. So it's good, but it's a bit difficult to get there.
Yeah, not to mention that, like, if it's the more specific anything is, the more like you're ready to buy. Like if you're looking up Adidas blue shoes for women, like you are already visualizing your hair, or you're already visualizing your head that
running
you want this type of shoe. You've been thinking about buying it. Like by the time you start looking up specifically, like you're much closer to the end buy goal than say a consumer is just looking at shoes.
Yeah, you're much more further in your buying cycle. You're much closer to the transaction. So typically, someone looking for that, if you show him or her, in this case, the right page, this person will be more likely to convert, to buy. So typically, you get better conversion rates there.
Great. And what would you say is one thing that most companies don't know about SEO that would drive massive improvements in the results?
I like to say that nobody knows anything about SEO because there's no real knowledge. The only knowledge is Google. What we do is only try to find the right things, but nobody really has the truth. But the most important thing I believe is that what Google is looking for is relevance. That's all. So if you want to optimize a page for Adidas blue shoes for women, look at the page you've created once you've done it, and just ask yourself, if I was looking for that, is this relevant or not? Is this relevant for that very specific keyword? Does it look nice? Is it fast? But is the content exactly what I'm looking for? Because in the end, that's the only thing that Google wants, is to show the most relevant result. And most of the time in SEO, people start analyzing tons of data, millions of things. They run big processes. They do tons of tools, or they just read a blog saying, you have to write a text of 500 characters. Who says that? It's not the truth. It's just, okay, it might be interesting to do it, but that's not the truth. So the truth is, make a page. Once you've finished your page, look, does it answer what the user wants? Is it relevant to the specific keyword. And just by doing that, you can save a lot of time and money.
I mean, it's like great in theory, but the actual execution is very hard on that type of thing, just because like the more long tail keywords, like how much relevance do you do, etc. Like, do you have any sort of best practices of sort of how do you start actually executing that? Is it just sort of creating like answering like what is the best Adidas blue shoe for women? Like, how do you actually go about like executing upon that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, what I said is quite easy to say. It's always the same, but of course, when you have to, once you have to achieve it, it's a bit more complex. But in the end, you have to have a page that is really relevant for that keyword for someone looking for it. You will need, I would say, mostly three things. You need the page to be fast. You need the page to be usable, like especially on mobile. We know everybody's using mobile now, so it needs to be to have a decent UX. That's one very important thing. The second thing is and most important is the content. It sounds stupid, but if you don't display Adidas blue shoes for women on a page that you want to rank for Adidas blue shoes for women, it will never work. And it's not always easy, because here, obviously, I choose a very simple example, very clear, very well defined. But once you're starting to have thousands or tens of thousands of pages, each of them must be extremely relevant. Each of them must display exactly the products that are that people are actually looking for. So it's all about finding the right products. So this is a second very important thing. And the third thing.
And on that one, really quickly, like how literal does it need to be? Because I know that Google is getting better and better at sort of like intent matching, where it can figure out similar like terms that mean the same thing as like blue shoes. What are your thoughts on that? Like how literal should the page be towards like being specifically using the words that you want to have as your search term?
The more you make the job of Google easy, the better your chances. So you have to have a title that is exactly the words you want to optimize the page for. You need to have the products displayed. Google is smart enough, and if Google is not smart enough today, it will be later, to see that if you have pictures, they display Adidas, I mean, blue Adidas shoes for women. Google will just know. So don't try to trick it won't work on the long run. So you need the words to be there, and you need the actual products to be there as well. So they really need to be these products. And of course, if you can put a little bit of text that is mentioning all the words you're looking for, the brand Adidas, the blue, the shoes, and so on, then it's even better, of course.
Great. And you were saying, so fast, needs to be mobile friendly. The content needs to be
relevant
in the page. What was
exactly
the last one?
And the third one is a bit more technical, but in the end, you need Google to find the pages, because it's very important, of course, to have a page that is relevant, but you also need to show it to Google. So what is super important is what is called internal linking. So basically, from anywhere or somewhere on your website, there must be a way to find your page, because in the end, what is Google is a big machine that is just every day looking at all the pages of all the websites in the world. That's basically what Google is doing, and then looking at each of them, and then analyzing them and putting them in their index. But the thing is, Google can only find a page if other pages are referring to it, are linked to it. So this is also super important. So within your website, you need to make sure that it's possible to find your pages. And that's a very, especially when you have tens of thousands of products, typically it can be difficult to make sure all pages are linked together. And these are, I would say, three fundamental things in SEO for e-commerce.
Great. And sort of talking about that, how do you actually execute on that in terms of like does the shopping cart matter? What is the best way to make sure that like all of your different products actually have a shot at getting SEO ranking?
You need to make sure they're present on a page that is dedicated to a keyword that people are actually looking for. It's a bit long sentence, but you have to make sure you find, if in your inventory you have 10 pairs of shoes that are blue, that would be a good idea to create a page for blue shoes, because someday someone might look for it. So you have to make sure that all your shoes, your products, are actually present somewhere on a page. I'm talking specifically about long tail SEO in this case, but it's a missed opportunity if you don't do that. If you don't identify that blue shoes is an opportunity, it's sad because someone else will take it, while you have content you can use in order to create a nice page that has a good chance to rank because you have product. If you do have product, the page is relevant.
And how much is that like, can you just use a shopping cart to do this in terms of just like have it build out like every product has its own page, so all of those have a chance at SEO ranking? How much of this is something that's sort of like you can just do in-house out of the box with the shopping cart versus something that you're doing a ton of custom work on top of?
Yeah, typically it's usually not built in an e-commerce solution. It's quite difficult to get there because these e-commerce solutions are there to help you. It's like a CMS, and they're there to help you create categories, list products, and of course have a shopping cart where you can actually buy, pay online, and then you receive your things. The CMS, the e-commerce platform, will actually take care of all that. But most of the time, there's nothing specifically designed for SEO, which requires what we've said, and that is really helping you creating thousands of long tail, super specific pages, but keeping a high quality for each of them without having to do manual steps, because you can do that manually. 10,000 pages for all the variants of keywords I was mentioning before. Yeah, you can do it, but it will take forever.
That makes sense. So it's also the other thing is like if you have blue Adidas shoes, it's sort of like you need to have multiple different pages for that same product that are sort of like towards like different SEO terms that people are searching. Is that part of it? Is that even one product needs multiple pages, or is it how do you think about that?
Yeah, let's say the longest tail keywords are actually the products. So yeah, if I have I'm talking about Adidas shoes, but I have no clue of any specific model. But let's say Nike, Air, Pegasus, something. If that's a specific model, then that's a bit different, because here it's if someone is actually looking for that, then what will Google show as a first page? It will be the product page, the page displaying the Air Pegasus size 42. This is it. So that's the product itself. So this is good, and you can't really compete with that. You just need to have a very good page for that very specific product. Here, when I was talking about long tail, I was talking just one level above, which is a collection of a few products. So like all the pink shoes or the blue shoes. So this is one level above in terms of long tail, and that's where you can really make a difference as well. Because the problem is most people, e-commerce sites selling shoes, they all have the same shoes, all of them in the end, and or most of them, and most of the time with the exact same description. So competing on that is very difficult. If you want to attract someone exactly on your product page displaying that specific model of shoe in that color, it's extremely difficult, because all other websites selling these shoes, they have the exact same page. So good luck. So that's why it's better to try to go get there's much more opportunity in long tail displaying a collection of products on the page.
And so like that would be sort of the concept of like, instead of just like the Nike Air, it is sort of like blue Nike shoes for playing basketball, where you have all the products and those can all rank themselves, but it's also very competitive. But once you put a category on it that people might actually be searching for as they're trying to be like, oh, I love blue shoes, I need one for my game, like I'm going to search for that specific term. And because no one else has really gone after that specific set of keywords, like you rank up much better than anyone who hasn't focused on it. Is that the thought process with it?
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about categories, which is super important. Of course, you can do SEO with categories. I mean, you have to. It's the very first step. But you can create a category first that will be, let's say, let's assume you're selling only shoes. You create a category for shoes for men. That's or for women. And then within that, you have you can have running shoes for women. So you can already go one level below, and then you can go at different levels. But you can't cover every single combination just with categories, because I was talking about blue Adidas shoes women. That's, you have to put a brand, Adidas in this case, and you also have to put a color. Can you imagine all the combinations there are there? You just can't create categories for all of that. There's no way. And then the category managers in your team, they will get crazy, because it's just impossible. And you have categories that are empty, combinations that don't exist, maybe. So you really get into trouble if you try to manage it only with categories, which is the best thing to do for top keywords. But once you go more specific, you can't handle that with this.
So what's the other approach for building is like really long tail keywords in a natural way? Like what is like the actual page looking like, and what is like the kind of term that you're building when you're not doing on the category level, but you're trying to sort of do the long tail?
Yeah. There you need to develop technology specifically for that.
Yeah.
Or obviously, I mean, you've seen something there on my t-shirt. That's obviously what we do. It's you really have to recreate a technology that you have to plug on your platform that will allow you to define one keyword. And then for that keyword, that will look in your database, what are the best products to display? For each product, what kind of little text can I put in the page so that it's highly relevant? And link these pages with all of the others so that Google bots can find them. Make sure the H1, the titles, the basics of SEO are correct. And of course, keep a page that is super fast, that is that keeps a very good user experience. And it's never something that is built in e-commerce platforms. But that's what you should, that's the ideal way to cover and to get every single visit that you can get in Google with for long tail keywords.
So in that approach, you're actually starting with the keywords itself. So you're like, okay, like I know this is a keyword that we can serve, and then basically like it detects the keyword, and then it says like, okay, these products match that keyword. Here's all the details that keyword's talking about. Here's what the actual page has to be, which is like, if you're looking at the specific niche term, this page will have all of the things that answer sort of what you were looking for.
Yeah. So yeah, indeed. And Verbolia starts like this. You will just upload your catalog. It's just a product feed. You push your feed. Our system will analyze it and will tell you, I found 6 pairs of Adidas blue running shoes for women, and here they are. And I also found out that today you're not very good in Google on that very specific keyword, but you have products. So it's really a missed opportunity. So we'll tell you, you should create a page with these 6 products, and you should name it, this page, Adidas Blue Shoes for Women. So our technology will starting from your product feed, will make you suggestions, will provide you suggestions on of this type. And then you can say, yes, I want a page. And then our system will start building the page, analyzing some relevant signals of Google, and make sure that the page keeps up to date and really ranks as high as possible.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about that last part too. So I know that sort of like one of the SEO things that people mostly don't know is that revisiting pages is very important for ranking in SEO, like ranking up in Google now. Like they want to make sure that what pages keep getting updated and the content is being refreshed as things change. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously your pages needs to be always up to date. That's very important, because if your pricing is not correct, you will deceive the user, and then you will spend less time, and then you might lose some rankings. Plus, obviously, I mean, if the product doesn't exist, there's no point displaying it anywhere. So of course your content needs to be up to date. But more important, I mean, as important as that, you also need to make sure that Google sees that your content is up to date. Because in the end, if Google has a hard time finding this page because it's lost in a million of other pages, it's good to refresh it, but Google won't know it. So this is why it's extremely important, this internal linking. That's by a feature of what we do, but you don't need Verbolia to do it. You can do it also manually, is analyzing on your platform what page is Googlebot visiting. Bots of Google, they are just crawling, and you need to know which pages Google forgets or keep avoiding because it just doesn't find them. And once you've identified these, you need to make sure to put links to these pages to be sure that on the next scroll of Google, he finally finds these pages. If you don't do that, there's no point refreshing your pages if Google doesn't see them. So that's super important. And of course, you want that the more you see Googlebots crawling your pages, the better you know you're on the right direction. You will see things evolving because it means Google has an interest in your page.
That's really interesting. So do you have a way to detect that Google bots are like the Google spider is actually like checking your website regularly?
Yeah. So there's a few ways to do it. Obviously, in our case with Verbolia, there's an integrated feature of this the technology. So we every day, I mean, in real time actually, we just look in the application logs, because in the end, a spider or a crawler is nothing else than a machine making a request to your server. So we just have to see, there was a request from a server, and this request was from an IP that belongs to Google that has this kind of user agent and other specific things. And we say, okay, so that was a visit from a Googlebot. So we identify all this, and we, most important, identify the pages that have not been crawled recently, and then dynamically in our solution, dynamically we will statistically distribute more links to these pages. So that statistically, there's a better chance that tomorrow, when the bots of Google come back, they will find the pages they forgot to or they missed the time before. Of course, it requires a bit of work. Again, we've put that into one single product that does the whole thing, but it's a normal way of doing advanced optimizations on a website. That's how you should do it. We went with an automated way to get there.
That's awesome. And say you set up some of these like new pages and stuff. It's like a newer e-commerce company, and they've just started this SEO process. Like, what are sort of their expectations about how quickly they'll see results, and sort of how do those results unfold?
Yeah, so it's always the big question. The answer is always it's slow. It's very slow. SEO is slow. So to have your page in top results, it will take a long time. And the reason for that is that Google requires, saying Google, but any search engine obviously requires trust. They need to be sure of what they do, because if they do something wrong, it really causes a lot of damage to a lot of people. And for that, they need to collect a lot of information. And there's probably another reason, which is they don't really want us to reverse engineer their algorithm. So if the algorithm are changing slowly, then so many factors have changed that it's impossible to isolate the actual factor that affected something with the ranking. So because of these two things, it will take a long time. So we always speak in months in SEO. It's never really like in 2 seconds that you get something. I mean, of course, if you have a website that already have a lot of SEO traffic, and that is really that has very strong brand, very strong authority, we say in SEO, then adding a long tail pages, it will work much better. These long tail pages will rank much faster because Google knows you, trusts you, than if you do that on a brand new domain. But yeah, it's always the bigger have a huge advantage on Google. Unfortunately it's like that. But with a technology like ours, you can get more traffic on a lot of small places that nobody's really has been really investing in so far.
Yep. And it sounds like the other thing that's just sort of like the essential secret to SEO is just making sure that your internal links are as focused on as everything else, because that's one of the things that you have control over.
Yeah, if you do something good, you have to show it to Google.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the thing. If you don't, then you're a bit stuck.
Cool. And sort of how does like Verbolia actually end up working for like a customer? Like they set up with you, what are sort of like the experience that they have there? What does it end up doing first? How does that work?
Yeah, so to set up Verbolia is really simple. You need to provide your catalog of products. So it's a product feed, it's an XML file where you put all your products. Our system will analyze it. And then you have to create a page template. So obviously a Verbolia page is a page, so it needs to have a header, a footer, a look and feel, colors and everything. So this is something you need to design, a page template. And then based from that, our system will recommend to you some keywords. You should create this page. And if you want, you can create it. And you can, of course, by yourself, upload a list of keywords for all the words you would like to rank better. And then for each of these keywords, our system will look at the best products to display. We'll put them in a page, make sure the page is published, is fast, and is linked. And then the system will learn by itself. So it will look at the ranking of the page in Google. Is it working well or not? Is it well crawled by Google? And based on that, the page will be refreshed every day to get better and better. And so it's extremely simple, because once it's set up, it's just about listing the words for which you want to be found. And that's it. Based on that, the system will make sure you get the best possible page and that this page can be crawled by Google. So it's actually super easy to use.
Well, and you mentioned the page template. Do you have any suggestions on best practices there? Because I mean, I haven't seen too many websites with this type of like page template. So if a brand's like considering for the like what do they need to do there in terms to like make that successful and aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, I mean, with Verbolia, basically the page template, you will not see any difference to the pixel with a classic category page. It will be exactly the same. So I'm always talking about my Adidas blue shoes for women. You would see a page displaying Adidas, these shoes and a title and everything, but all the rest is exactly, the page looks exactly the same as a category page. So typically Verbolia creates category-like pages. So you have to just upload your template that you use in your Magento, your Shopify, or whatever platform you're using. The same template you have to apply it to Verbolia. Requires a bit of a tweaking, but once it's done, you do it once. And once it's done, and then you're good to go.
And with that stuff, sort of how deep can you go with sort of like / like women's blue shoes, Adidas? Like how deep can you go before, like, is there any sort of like SEO penalty there, or can you go as deep as you want as long as it's relevant?
It's always the same. As long as it's relevant and you don't do spammy things, it's reasonable, then you can do it. In the end, you just try to bring the best page for a long tail, a very specific search. So there's no real limit. Obviously, if you I don't know, if your website already has, I don't know, 100,000 pages, don't create 1 million pages with Verbolia. It doesn't really make sense, because most of your traffic should come from your top pages, your home, your big top categories and everything. Verbolia is there to fill up all the little gaps. You don't do that by multiplying by 10 the number of pages you have. Maybe you can, but over a few years, then just to let Google take time to discover all this, make sure that all these pages are good, then you can add a bit more. So you have to be a bit careful, because if not, Google would see a website that suddenly grew by times 10. The time that all their algorithms are starting to adjust, you need years before they find out. So they find out all the pages. So you need to to be a bit reasonable. So there's no exact answer to that, but as always, it's about being reasonable and relevant.
Awesome. And for your customers that have done this and are seeing a lot of success on the SEO side, are there any other added benefits that they're seeing outside of SEO from implementing this structure and method, or is this a purely SEO play?
No, of course, it's also highly relevant for PPC or SEA, I mean, whatever we call it. But it's if you're doing, for example, Google Ads, you can use the Verbolia pages as landing pages, because in the end, creating a page displaying all these shoes, these Adidas shoes, since you have it, you better start a long tail PPC campaign in Google Ads. Just bid on the keyword itself. There's a good chance it will be higher than others, because there's a good chance your competitor doesn't have a page so specific. So probably your competitor for that Adidas blue shoes for women will probably have a landing page that is women's shoes or Adidas shoes, but not all specific. So by doing this, you get a better quality score. There's a chance you pay a bit less in the bidding, or you have higher positions. And more important, you get better conversions, because you send the visitor to exactly what he was looking for, and not to a general page, generic page about shoes or Adidas shoes. No, here you show exactly what he wanted. So better conversion and typically cheaper acquisition cost.
Does Verbolia make that easy enough to just sort of like pull, like, here's all the keywords that we've created pages for, and here's all the URLs? Is that pretty easy to get uploaded into?
Yeah. You click on download, you get the list of each keyword with the associated landing page, and you upload that in a campaign. And that's super easy. You can even let Google choose, because you have the Google the dynamic search ads, where you tell Google, please find keywords on my website and find the associated landing page. Since the concept of Verbolia is to build a page for a keyword, then actually Google finds extremely easily the matching keyword for the page. So you can even let Google decide. Most of the time, it will find immediately the match and take care of your campaigns.
Awesome. And can you share some results you've seen with customers?
So,
and any insights around that?
Yeah, sure. But typically, on average, if you set up Verbolia, you can expect around 30% of increase of SEO traffic over after a year. So we don't promise you multiply by 10 your SEO traffic, because that's a bit of a dream, not with long tail anyway. But typically 30% is the opportunity that most websites are leaving on the table. They are quite good on their top categories, but in between, there's all these little keywords that are all around that some other competitors are taking. And this is typically something you can expect. I mean, we have quite a few customers now, and this is really something we are confident with. So plus 30%. Now, of course, it depends on your existing traffic. That's what I said. The big ones, they have a bigger advantage, but just give an idea, our biggest customer, we bring them 9 million extra visits per month. So every month, thanks to Verbolia, there is 9 million visits. It's more of a classified website. It's a very big one. And our biggest customer in terms of revenue, because with Verbolia, the good thing is that you can actually identify, you can know exactly how much revenue you get, because we can measure how many visitors are landing on the Verbolia page, and if later in their process they will buy, and then we can associate the revenue with the solution Verbolia. Our biggest customer, they make over $1 million extra per month just by having set up Verbolia. So they installed Verbolia, they put keywords. A couple of months later, they get $1 million extra revenue just out of this new traffic that they were really not, they didn't even know that this traffic was existing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine that the 30% is also kind of misleading, just because that's 30% of people looking at very specific things and finding those specific things, which I'm sure converts way higher than someone that's just sort of like starting the shopping process.
Yes, yeah, sure. Well, of course, depends a bit on your maturity. But on a well-established website that already have a lot of traffic, typically 30% is an easy thing you can get. If you're a bit younger and you don't have many pages, you can get a higher percentage.
Mm-hmm. And for like e-commerce companies, at like what stage do you recommend that they implement something like this?
Typically, what we say to really get the benefits out of it, you need at least 3,000 products in your catalog. Because if you have less, there's not so many opportunities. Because I was talking about Adidas blue shoes for women about a lot of times already. But if you don't have them, you can't create the page. So you already need to have a big inventory, a lot of products in order to be able to create a very specific page. So typically minimum 3,000 products. And the other criteria is already minimum 100,000 visits a month in SEO. Again, it's just that if you have 100 visits a month in SEO, okay, we'll bring you maybe an extra 30%, but what you do with that? And there are better things to do before setting up Verbolia. So Verbolia is a bit more mid-size businesses, not just starting, because yeah, you need to have some basics before you set up Verbolia.
So, I mean, 3,000 products is a lot for a lot of types of e-commerce products. So what are sort of like the verticals that you think it's best suited for this entire approach?
Actually, you would be surprised how many products websites have, because when I'm talking about products, I'm really talking about SKUs or really, how do you say that? Individual items. So if you have a shoe in size, in color white, red, and blue, it's 3 products, because each of them can be used in a different page. So we consider that as 3 products. So it's really individual items. So 3,000 is something you can really get there. And we work with everything. We have bookstores, we have fashion, we have food, we have honestly the electronics, the do-it-yourself. Honestly, we don't have a specific segment there as long as you're selling products online.
Awesome. And what big changes do you see coming in the next 2 years?
In terms of SEO, I don't see any big changes, but I see millions of small changes. Because it's in the end how search engines work. Sometimes there's a big announcement, Google has changed this and this and that, but it's the more important changes that are done over the year, because these search engines, they are just learning, just like everyone, and they just do it step by step. And they do a small change and say, yeah, doesn't look more relevant. That's cool. We keep it, and then like this. So that's why there's lots of legends on how many times Google changed their algorithm. Some say several times a day. Honestly, I don't know. And in the end, I don't really care. What we want is to align with what they want. Verbolia is aligned because we want to deliver a page that is relevant. And as long as we are aligned, they can change it. Always our algorithm will always go in the same direction. That's what really matters. So yeah, there will be tons of little things, and we'll always have to adjust to be sure that Google understands what we do, to display the information as easy to read for bots as possible. But as long as you go there, you'll see a lot of small changes happening.
I think that's great strategic advice. For SEO, just align with what Google wants and try and build content for what Google's actually trying to achieve. And as long as it's fast and SEO friendly and mobile friendly, it's a good approach to take for all of that side of your marketing.
Yeah. Take a lot of patience with you.
Yeah, a lot of patience. Cool. Any sort of parting thoughts or takeaways?
No, actually, my last sentence about the time is always important. That's what you say about trees. SEO is like trees. So the best moment to start doing SEO, it was actually 20 years ago. The second best moment, it's today. So tomorrow, but it's today.
Awesome. And how can people learn more about Verbolia and potentially test it out? Obviously, verbolia.com, and reach out to me on LinkedIn or wherever. I'm pretty sure you can find me. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for your time. This is really great. And I think a lot of people will benefit from sort of just a very actionable way to think about how they can improve their SEO.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Perfect. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye.